Hello and welcome to another episode of the Magical World of G. Michael Vasey podcast series. And the guest for this episode is a bit different for this show, an indie musician based in Orlando, Cat Ridgeway. But I happened upon her when I listened to a song called What If. She had put it out as a single a few months ago. The lyrics are about parallel realities, and I thought them unusual, and I loved the song, still do. So I dug a bit deeper and discovered an indie artist who describes her music as indie rock for overthinkers. Well, with a career full of synergies and a sense of wonder and magic of life in her lyrics, I had to talk to her. And what a chat we had, great fun. I started by asking how she got into music.
Yeah. So I have an older brother. He's 3 years older than me. And when I was in kindergarten, he started taking guitar lessons. And I'm going to give you the context because I feel like you will appreciate this. So my brother was never the type of kid who was like, I'm going to play guitar. He was really into sports. And he hit this crazy growth spurt and grew too fast for his bone structure to keep up with
Right,
him. And he ended up with a thing called Sever's disease, which is where basically your tendons don't grow as fast as your skeleton, and
right,
so it ended up causing stress fractures in his feet.
right,
So he had one bum foot, and he couldn't play basketball or whatever season it was over the summer. And he was really bummed because all of his friends had planned to play.
right.
And my dad was like, "Man, we got to do something for this kid." And my dad grew up with an older brother who played guitar, and he grew up around music and has loved it. And he was like, "Mitch, you're going to play guitar. That's what we're going to do. I'm going to get you a guitar. You're going to take lessons this summer and you're going to be a rock star." And so Mitch was like, "Okay, whatever." And I mean, he thought it was cool. And he starts taking lessons. And I am sitting in the corner watching him take these lessons. And I'm like, this is so cool. I want to do this. I want to
Right.
be cool too. So I end up telling my parents I want to take lessons, and they let me try. And at the time, I was probably 7 or so, and my hands were tiny, and I couldn't get
Yeah,
them all the way around the neck of the guitar. And
right.
so I was really struggling to play. And I ended up actually taking lessons on the drums. And so that was kind of my first foray into playing music. And it's all my brother's fault. All of this is Mitch's fault.
But you've made it a career, right? I mean,
I have very, very, very fortunate to say so, yes. So after that, I started taking lessons on a bunch of different instruments. I joined the school band. I had, more of like an academic background in playing music
right.
after a few years went by. And around the time I got into the school band, I started kind of teaching myself guitar again because I still thought guitar was cool and I wanted to play.
Right.
And my brother, again, being a couple years older than me, ended up starting a little band when he was in middle school, high school. And we had some family friends who had some gigs around town at some local restaurants. And so when they would take their 15-20 minute break in between sets, they would bring my brother and his best friend up to do a couple of songs and kind of started breaking them into doing live shows that way. Well, as time went on, my brother and his friend ended up becoming the band that was playing at this place. And then I started playing on their breaks. And so this torch just kind of got passed down to me. And that's how I started playing out live. And then by the time I got to my junior year of high school, back in the days when Reverb Nation was kind of all the rage. I don't know. Do you guys have that over
I'm
in
not.
Europe?
I'm
Like,
not
do you use
sure.
it?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so gosh, probably 10 or so years ago, it was basically a Facebook type of social media platform,
Oh,
but
I
specifically
remember
for
it. Yes,
music.
yes, yes. Now I remember it. Yeah.
Yeah, so people would have pages just for their music and be like, "Hey, this is what I do, this is where I'm
Yeah.
based. If you want to connect, hit me up." So I ended up, building a page for myself, and a local bar slash restaurant ended up reaching out to me, and they were like, "Hey, we had a musician who played here for years, but she ended up going to college, and now we need someone to replace her because she was here every week. Are you interested?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they were like, "Great, the time slot is 3 hours. And at the time, I was like, oh my God, 3 hours? Like, I'm supposed to know 3 hours of music?
Yeah.
And so I would come home from high school, do my homework, and then I'd sit down and learn 2 to 3 songs a night until I had a huge binder full of
Wow.
songs. And I was like, okay, I'm ready to go. And so I started playing this gig. And at first, I had to repeat songs. I learned like an hour and a half of stuff. And then I was like, I'll just do the same set twice.
Wow.
and
Yeah.
um, yeah, then people kept requesting certain songs, and then it ended up expanding my musical horizons like you wouldn't believe, because different people's taste just kept getting thrown at me every night.
Yeah.
And it's like I would hear certain artist names or songs often enough that I was like, okay, that one I think I need to learn, because enough people have thought of that when they've heard me. And that's kind of how I started playing out live. And then ended up meeting my bandmates, started playing out live with my own music, and it's just snowballed from there.
I was
It's
going to say, when
been
did you
very
start
step by step.
writing? When did you start writing?
When I first picked up the guitar, actually, I was like in 5th grade. So I want to say I was probably around 12 or 13. And when you don't know how to play an instrument, you kind of just start making stuff up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I fell into songwriting for that reason. And I had started getting really into the singer-songwriter thing. I thought the storytelling aspect of it was
Hmm.
incredible, and it was something I wanted to tap into. And so the very first song I wrote from start to finish that I showed my parents was called Parachute. And around the time that I showed them that, I had started going to an open mic around the corner from where I grew up. And the open mic was in a recording studio. Greg Reich owned it, and he worked with Little Feat, the Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears, and a bunch of stuff that came out of Orlando in that early 2000s pop boom.
Hmm.
And so every single week I'd try to come in and have a new song written. And that was a pretty hefty goal to try to keep up with at the time, when,
Hmm.
being in school and being at that age and everything. But I did keep up with it for a while. And just by way of the volume of ideas I was trying to get across, I ended up kind of figuring out a little bit more about how songs come together and how to get them to be a little bit smoother. And around this time too, my brother was still playing, and so he and I would end up playing as a duo, and he and I would collaborate on different song ideas and kind of bounce ideas off of each other. He started songwriting as well, and then we'd show each other stuff. Yeah, it's just um, it just spiraled, honestly, out of me not knowing how to play guitar. And that is actually the reason I don't really take I haven't learned music theory or anything
No,
seriously.
no. I never did either. I mean, I'm self-taught guitar player, and my son, on the other hand, is a musical genius when it comes to that stuff. And I'm like, nah, I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're talking about. You mean like this? Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
about?
well, I mean, if it sounds good, it is good.
Yeah,
You
that's
don't have to
that's
understand why necessarily.
exactly. Yeah,
It helps,
yeah.
but um, there's a wonder and a mystery about the craft when you're not 100% sure what the mechanics are, and there's a childlike energy that you can tap into when you don't approach it so methodically. And I like that. I like keeping that intact for myself.
See, this is the magical side, because I think that creativity is a magical pursuit, and music is very important. From a magical point of view. I mean, in
Hmm.
many different ways, for concentration, for getting yourself into a different state of mind, meditation. I douse energy lines, and crazy me, these are actually sound waves caused by the core and the outer core of the Earth spinning at different speeds, and it creates
That's awesome.
low frequency sound waves. And we also have all of the solfeggio frequencies that can be used for healing, and so sound music, I think, is really, really important. Bloody
How
hell,
did you find me?
Ah, well, I used to live in Houston, Texas. I moved here 20 years ago, and my eldest son still lives in Austin, actually. And I was there when Lullaby came out, and I thought, I thought that Rockabye or whatever, and Shawn Mullins.
Yeah,
I bought his album, and I've been a fan of Shawn Mullins. I'd love to see him live, but obviously never comes to Europe. And I've been a fan of Shawn Mullins for donkey's years, and I'm into all kinds of different music. I mean, Sex Pistols, Bush,
yeah.
everything but rap, basically. And occasionally I have my Shawn Mullins moment where just have to have some Shawn Mullins, right? Because I work.
Yeah.
And I was on Spotify and I saw this. I put Shawn Mullins in search, and this thing came up, and it was like you and him featuring him. And I thought, well, that's weird. I've never seen that before. So I played it, and I thought, wow. So then I went to YouTube, found the video, thought, wow, this is bloody brilliant stuff. So then I looked you up on
Thank you.
Spotify and YouTube, and I almost immediately got into your song about parallel realities, and that blew my mind because I'm thinking, how many people think about parallel realities?
Yeah.
Normal, right?
Yeah.
But people look at me
Yeah.
like I'm some kind of a bloody lunatic.
No, it's like I really do feel like people think about it way more than it's talked about, even though it's talked about a decent amount,
Yeah,
there's so many movies made about it, and I
yeah,
think too, just with quantum physics becoming
yeah, yeah.
more,
I
yeah,
I heard your song "What If," and it came up on YouTube with the lyrics on the bottom, and I could not believe what I was seeing. Right, because what I'm seeing, someone said to me, I sent it to a friend and said, "Hey, listen to this, look at the lyrics," and she said, "Good God." That's the kind of stuff you're really into. He said, "Damn right I am." Parallel universes, the
yes,
idea that every time I make a decision, I split off a parallel world and there's multiple me's wandering around doing all
yes,
kinds of different things, and goodness knows. And I sometimes think if I die in one of them, my consciousness flips to the next surviving one. So you keep going.
yes. I have had this thought too.
And, because I'm a bit into the magic and all the, astrology and tarot and all that sort of stuff, and quantum physics as well. Uh,
Hmm.
and some of the people I talk to on this show, like Anthony Peake, and he's a guy that's really looked at all of this and come up with the idea that that when we die we drop out of time, and then we're presented with our own life back again, and we actually get to live our own life over and over and over again until we get it right. And he likens it to playing a computer game where you
Huh.
eventually meet the big boss. Your
Yeah.
character keeps dying, but you, the driver, are always there driving the little sprite, right? So you get to
Very
live
interesting.
life over and over and over again until you defeat the big boss, and then you get to another level and start all over again, which is really an intriguing idea. So I
Yeah.
was I was just like blown away, and I just wondered, how did you come up with lyrics like that? What prompted that thought? And by the
Yes.
way, the song is really good. I really love it.
Thank you.
That and Sprinter. I love the effect you have on the guitar where I think it's Sprinter, where you start with some notes and then you must hit some pedal and it's really good.
Yeah. Yeah, we were definitely channeling our inner 90s grunge kids on that song. It
Yeah.
was really fun. I just remember being in the studio too, and every time we were referencing back to that guitar section, I just kept telling my co-producer, I was like, "Can we make it harder? Can we make that more distorted? Can we go a little more?" And then he was like, "More? More?" Like, and then we finally got it to where it is, and I was like, "Yeah." But as far as What If goes, the story behind this actually kind of cracks me up. Um, I had gotten invited to be an artist in residence at an art gallery, and they had this little cabin on 5,000 acres of woodland. No internet service, there's hardly anything. It's almost the most bougie camping situation you could think of. It is a proper building, but there's no air conditioning or anything. They built it oriented to where the sun rises and sets so
Uh-huh.
that it creates a convection current based off of where the building's being heated. It is beautiful. It's so cool. And so I had this invitation to come up to this cabin. I emphatically and very enthusiastically was like, yes, I have to do this. So I get to this cabin. I'm by myself for like a week in the woods.
Hmm.
And as a songwriter, that's that's the dream. That's the thing everybody wants to go do is just go off grid and write songs. And I was so excited to do it. But then when you get there, all of a sudden there's an immense amount of pressure to write the best thing you've ever written in your life because you got to be the songwriter who's in the cabin in the woods off grid. And so I'm sitting there, I'm trying so hard to write something that I actually like, and it is not happening. And luckily, I had the foresight to bring some gummies with me. And so I decided to take two this particular day and go for a walk in the woods by myself. So here I am in the middle of all these trees, and I knew exactly where I was on the path because I've been a big outdoorsy person for years. So I know how to follow a trail and keep my wits about me in that type of setting.
Right.
But the gummies kicked in, I looked up and I couldn't tell up from down. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know where I am. And thank God I had thought at the last second to bring my phone. I ended up finding a telephone tower, was able to make a call to the folks whose property I was staying on, and they gave me the most backwoods directions ever to get back to this little cabin. And by the time I got back, I realized I'd never been more than like 50 yards away the whole time. And I was like, this is so classic. But I started spinning out. I had started like properly freaking out because I was like, what if I don't make it back to this cabin? And the phone call was starting to drop as I was walking in the direction that the lady was telling me to go. And she was giving me specific trees as
Oh my
landmarks.
goodness me.
And I'm in the middle of a million trees. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to find my way back. Like, this is actually terrifying. And so I finally do get back to this cabin. I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, dude, if parallel universes do exist, I absolutely died in these woods in at least 5 of them. There's simply no way that that's not a possible outcome in quantum reality.
Right.
And I'm sitting there thinking about this and I'm just freaking out more. And I'm like, well, in this universe, I'm fine. And I keep telling myself that, but it's not helping. And so I was like, well, this sounds like something to write a banjo song about because I'm in the woods. And so I picked my banjo up and started playing this little riff. And I was like, that's kind of funny. And then I just, stream of consciousness, started writing everything that I was thinking about in that state of mind. And it knocked me out of analyzing and editing what I was creating as I was creating it. I was just like word vomiting onto the page. And then later on, I did go back and tighten a couple things up. But for the most part, that's almost a first draft.
Wow.
Um, I know. And it's crazy because it's like I went from trying so hard to write something good to absolutely not caring at all and just writing it for myself to calm myself down, and then boom, here's the thing that actually resonated with people, and to date is actually the most successful song that I've put out. It spent 18 weeks on the charts out here, 14
Um,
of which in the top 40 on AAA, which is crazy.
yeah, that's good. Well, I printed the
Thank you.
lyrics from all the songs on the album, and I thought there was one or two others that you got a bit esoteric as well.
Yeah.
So is this something? Is this something that you know? Because I was, who thinks like that? You know,
Yeah.
you think of I don't know. Maybe I'm being a bit odd, but you think of like some a singer and you're thinking they're writing nice songs about love and you know anguish and stuff like this, and then I read some of your lyrics. I'm like, uh-huh, this lady's thinking 3 levels deeper than the average person
Thank you.
about reality and what life is, you know, and that was what intrigued me. And the fact that you have a hell of a voice. I mean, you know,
Thank you.
I've done a bit of musical stuff myself because I'm a creative person. I do all kinds of nonsense, and I've got some songs out on Spotify and stuff as well.
That's awesome.
And I can't, I mean, the problem with me is maybe I could have sung a little bit when I was younger, but you kind of lose your voice later on, and I can't really sing. And I mean, on that Shawn Mullins combination, my God, you let it rip. That's
Thank
your
you.
most successful song, really, isn't it? The one with Mr. Mullins?
Actually, you'd be surprised, but
Really?
that was my first song on AAA that cracked into the top 100. But What If actually surpassed it
Oh,
and
really? Good. Good.
stayed up higher for a longer
Are you
period of
making
time.
forward progress then?
Yes, yes. And it's been really interesting because for me it was a huge shift to go from the more Americana soul
Right.
inspired sound to more of the indie rock
Yeah.
leaning aesthetics. And I've always loved indie rock. I've always loved soul too. And it was just like I wanted to get to a place where both of them could exist. And with the success of a song like the one with Shawn, it was incredible. But I started to feel like I was being pigeonholed in that genre a little
Right.
bit.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, before I get stuck here, let me just go
Yeah.
take a hard left
Yeah.
and put out some other stuff that I really love and see how people take to it. And then we'll take it from there. Because, you know, being a musician as a career, you gotta have some sort of business mindset for longevity and sustainability. However, you also have to make art that you believe in and
Right.
that you're inspired by and that you want
Yeah.
to share with people. And that's not to say that the stuff I was doing before wasn't that. It was just that I knew I had more in me, and before I got stuck being expected to paint with only blue, I wanted to put some red out there too. And so
Right.
now all of it can exist
Before
together.
we go too far down that avenue, me being a Shawn Mullins fan, and he's an outlier for me. It's whenever I'm in the US, if I come to the US, I always tune into country radio. I take my daughter to Florida. I put on country radio because I feel like I'm in America then, right? It's something
Yes.
you wouldn't necessarily hear here in Europe. On the other hand, when I was living in Houston, I caught the tail end of the whole Bush and all of that sort of music, and I really still like that sort of stuff. But
Yeah.
I mean, how on earth did you meet Shawn Mullins? I mean, I'd love to
Yeah.
meet Shawn Mullins.
Yes. So there are a handful of songwriters festivals down here in the Southeast because I am based in Florida. And one of them in Florida is called 30A Songwriters Festival,
Uh-huh.
which is up in the Panhandle, Destin. Um, and I played it for probably, I think I'm going on like 5 or 6 years at this point. But after I had played it 2 or 3 times, Shawn Mullins was there every single year. And then I figured out, oh, Shawn is there every single year because his management is the team that puts this festival together.
Ah, right. Okay. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, that's cool. Well, I guess his management knows me now because I've played this festival a couple of times.
Yeah.
And so one year I saw that after 30A, he was coming to play a venue in Tampa, Florida, which is just a couple hours
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
me. And I was like, I would love to open the show. So I just fired off a couple of emails
Really?
and
That's
yeah,
ballsy.
and they were like, yeah, I was just like, but nothing gets done if you don't
Oh, I
try.
know.
And
I know.
so I was just like, I'm just gonna ask because they know me kind of.
Yeah.
And to my surprise, they immediately approved it and they were like, "Oh, yeah, we know Cat. Put Cat on the show." And I was like, "Cool. That's awesome." So, and here's where some magic comes into it because I have had so many things in my career align like this where synchronicity has just been at the
Right.
core of what my existence has been really in this industry. So, my mom and I were driving up to 30A. She was coming with me to help me with the festival to run merch and stuff. And we had come up with the plan. We were going to leave at this time and get to check in at this time and blah, 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 blah. And we were like hours late. I'm talking like 3, 4 hours behind schedule. We were still going to make it in time and it was fine. I didn't have a show that day, but it was just, we were going off script.
Right.
And so as we're driving though, I said to her, man, I really would love to be able to meet Shawn at some point this weekend before I open the shows for him in Tampa, just because it would be really great to have a frame of reference for each other, I think. And she's like, I know, I really want you to meet him too, but I just don't know how we're going to do that. We get to artist check-in, and they always have this big stack of posters that all the artists sign because they auction them off at the end of the festival. And I look over and someone's sitting at the table signing all the posters, and it's Shawn. And I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, this is a perfect opportunity to say hi without it being
Yeah.
weird, you know? And
Yeah.
so I go over and I'm like, hey, what's up? My name is, and then he goes, Cat, you're opening the show in Tampa. What's up? Nice to meet you. And he knew exactly who I was before I even introduced myself.
Nice.
And I was like, whoa, like that right there tells you the type of person he is. He is so unbelievably kind and really does not have any ounce of ego
Yeah,
when
I
he
get that. I get that
should.
impression. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he's very, very humble in that way. And so I end up sitting next to him and we start signing all these posters together, kind of assembly line style. And he leans over to me and he goes, hey, you want to know something funny? I said, yeah. He says, sometimes I sign these things as Shawn Mendes and nobody notices, but I get a kick out of it. And I just thought that was hilarious. And we kind of just hit it off. And then fast forward to the show in Tampa, it went really well. He gave me a couple of songwriting tips and performance tips and was super complimentary. And then he actually invited me to come open his birthday shows up in Georgia. So then I went up to Georgia, and by the time we played those shows, he had actually been working behind the scenes to have me as his support for a national tour when he was going out for an anniversary of a record or something that was pretty notable. And
Right.
I was very, very excited because this was at a point I'd never toured like that before. And then COVID happened.
Oh
And
gosh. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
everything kind of just didn't end up happening as far as the tour went. But
Yeah.
I was like, man, we can sit here and we can be really bummed about all these shows, or we can try to make something new instead. And so I had the beginnings of Give Me Love, the song that we put out together. And I asked him if he'd want to finish it over FaceTime or something while we were in lockdown. So we ended up co-writing that during lockdown. And then I had an invitation to be part of this virtual radio showcase. And I found out that I was opening for Jackson Brown.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, like I need to do something really cool. And I was like, I don't know what to do. So I called Shawn. I was like, dude, what do I do? And I was like, wait. Actually, I know what to do. Do you want to be part of this? Do you want to be like the dark horse in my little showcase thing? And he's like, I mean, yeah, like how could I be part of it? And I was like, well, maybe we record that song that we just wrote and have that debut and like release it to radio during the showcase. And he's like, we could do that. And so he ends up at the end of lockdown putting together an entire recording session with his own band and pulling all the strings to get us in a room together, which at the time was a huge feat. Very difficult to get a place to allow that, to
Yeah.
find people who were willing to do that. We were all masked up and taking precautions, but just to be physically in a building together was a big deal at that time. And we ended up getting the song done and tracking it, and it sounded freaking awesome. And
That's great.
yeah, he co-produced it, and yeah, he's just the freaking best.
And
But
on
yes, so
Spotify, it has 655,000 plays, which is pretty nice.
yeah, can't complain about that.
Probably I've added 25 at least in the last 2 days.
Hey, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Love that song. You had this sudden change in style, which you've talked about.
Yeah.
So the question is which one are you?
Yeah, I do believe it's both, but I have always in my heart of hearts really, really, really loved indie alternative music. And that was the music that made me want to make music when I got
Right.
into high school and middle school. And when I first discovered indie rock, that was a light went off for me. I actually have a very distinct memory of being picked up from school, me and my brother both. And we were in the car with my mom, and Modest Mouse was hitting it big at the time, and The Ocean Breathes Salty came on, and I looked at my brother and I was like, what is that? I love that. And so the first two albums I ever bought with my own money from Best Buy were Good News for People Who Like Bad News, which had Ocean Breathes Salty on it, and License to Ill by the Beastie Boys.
So this is the direction that you're set to move in.
Yes, and I really really love everything though, and that's the thing about being a musician. It's
Yeah,
like you don't really have to choose. That's what albums are for.
yeah,
You can grow and evolve and morph into different versions of yourself because that's exactly how life works. Like, you
absolutely.
go through a couple of years and you're in a different phase of life, and the
Yeah,
record just kind of reflects that.
but making a living now.
Hmm.
As I say, I dabbled myself. I put out self-made albums. I mean, they're horrible quality because I did it home studio myself, but I did it more just for my kids. And
Lo-fi.
but my top song has nearly 10,000 plays on Spotify. I'm quite amazed. Anyway,
Oh.
yeah,
What's your artist name?
same as this, G. Michael Vasey.
Okay,
Yeah, go take a
I'm gonna
listen and
go
have a laugh. But
listen.
you know, I was thinking to myself, how on earth, if this was what I was trying to do for a living, how on earth do you even start? Because the record company is kind of irrelevant now. I think it's like,
Yeah.
how do you? And I started I'd record a song and I put it on Spotify and then I put it on Facebook and social media, and you get 3 plays and you think,
Yeah.
well, yeah, okay, maybe it's a bit crappy, but it's better than that. What? I mean,
Yeah.
somebody listen.
Yeah. No, I mean,
How do you
nowadays
manage this?
yeah. Nowadays I feel like it's so much more about marketing and social media than it is about the
Yeah,
music, which is
yeah,
unfortunate, but it's how it goes.
yeah,
And I I was very, very fortunate when I first got going because that open mic that I was talking about that was at the recording studio, when I first
yeah.
started playing out, Greg Reich, the owner and operator of that studio, he saw the spark in me and the drive that I had for the craft. And he pulled me aside one day and was like, "Hey, do you want to do this? Like, is this really what you want to do?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely, bar none. I'm all in." And he was like, "Okay, that's all I needed to know." So a couple of weeks later, he's like, "All right, so I'm starting this new series, and it's called Living Legends Music, where we have literal living legends come in and they do a session in the studio and we record it, and then they have a recorded performance on a DVD that they can sell at their shows or use for promotional purposes, whatever they
Mhm.
want to do. I want you to start opening all of these shows because we're going to have a live audience in the studio when they play these sets." I was like, "That sounds awesome." And so the first call I get, I'm opening for freaking Marty Ballin of Jefferson Airplane.
Wow.
And then, yeah, and then it's Bill Payne from Little Feat. And the list goes on and on. I opened a good handful of these shows, and Greg's intention was that by the time I got out of school, I would have enough of a resume for industry folks to take me seriously when I reached out to support another show or try to go on tour or work with certain people. And when I was younger, I realized that he was really helping me out. But now that I've been in the industry and worked within it for as many years as I have, now I understand just how much of a gift that was,
Right.
because
Yeah. Yeah.
it's unbelievable. And that, I mean, that's really how it got started for me. And then the other half of it is one of those shows, the Bill Payne show. Dennis McNally, the former publicist for the Grateful Dead, was also on tour with Bill promoting a book that he had written about his time with the Grateful Dead on the road.
Yeah.
And he ends up talking to my dad and saying, hey, I think Kat's got something really cool happening. Give me a call when you think the time's right, and gives my dad his card. My dad held on to that card for 10 years and didn't tell me. And so when Nice to Meet You, my last record, when we had the final mixes and we were trying to figure out what the rollout plan was going to look like, my dad goes, okay, I think now's the time to call Dennis. And I'm like, who? And he's like, you remember that guy? And I was like, wait, yeah, you still have his card? He's like, yeah. So we ended up calling him, and he actually did remember exactly who I was as soon as we said, Greg's name. And we ended up working together, and he has been an unbelievable dot connector in my life and career. And so much of it just comes back to that little incubation situation at that studio, and everything that Greg gave me in doing and having me on the shows. So that's how I personally got started, and I was unbelievably lucky, and I fully acknowledge the privilege that I walked into the industry with, having a scenario like that unfold. But nowadays, I would say if you're getting started, just make art, put it out there, let people perceive you, and just keep making stuff that you think is cool. Because if you think it's cool, it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned the word synchronicity, and I always think of, there's a path through life. It's a magical path, and you have to be open to it. But you led to it by synchronicity. If you follow the synchronicity, then you won't go far wrong. And that means being natural and not trying to force things, I think. I want to ask you another question, which is, how do you make money? And I don't mean to get too personal, but
yeah,
you've got record sales, you've got performances, and you've got merchandise. And the one thing I noticed on your website is you don't have much merchandise.
Yeah.
You just have one T-shirt and one hat, I think. And I was going to buy some, but I didn't think the T-shirt would suit me necessarily. But I might still.
Yeah, I'll send you something.
I did order some records, so I spent some money. But
thank you.
What is the mechanism by which you support yourself as an independent artist?
For the most part, right now, it's between touring and playing cover gigs, or gigs that are like cover gigs. So for the last couple of years, again, just crazy synchronicities. And that's funny because I'm wearing a Veil sweatshirt right now. But I have a family friend who played out in the Vail Valley at ski resorts for decades, and it changed his life. And he saw me play down here in the Southeast and said, you need to play in Colorado. You would do really well in that market. And I said, okay, cool. Like, let's do it then. And he was like, if you're serious, clear your schedule and I'll make some calls. So next thing I know, he's acting as my de facto agent, calling all of his old gigs, getting me into all of these rooms in the Vail Valley. And I walked into an incredible slate of gigs for a winter season. And it was insanely lucrative compared to other things that I've done in the past. And so for the past couple of years, I've gone back and forth between here and Colorado because I'll play anywhere from 3 to 6 nights a week out there. And I do the après ski thing, and I meet really cool people from all over the world. I hear tons of crazy stories, and I've learned so much new music because of people being from different regions of the world requesting things. And yeah, so that's been my main income stream is doing the seasonal ski resort gig. That has been awesome.
Interesting.
Yeah. But everyone's path is going to look a little bit different. It's like melting snow finding its way down to the stream. Everyone's going to find a different path over the rocks.
Well, I mean, you used to make money from selling the music, but now, I mean, Spotify doesn't even pay you unless you make so many.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, Spotify ain't it. But there are really great revenue streams if you can crack into them. Another thing that I've been really wanting to get into more is sync licensing. I have had a couple of sync license deals in the past that were incredible. And that's where you have a song that is used in a commercial or film or
Yeah.
television. And for me, it was a commercial spot, and I specifically rewrote a song and a lyric for the specific project, and it was awesome. So more of that would be really fun. And trying to think of where else. Merch does bring in a decent amount of income, especially when you're touring. I've noticed that merch sales are what save us because
Yeah, yeah.
as a growing band, yeah, as a growing band, getting a door percentage or ticket sales split of some sort usually is just enough to cover your baseline expenses of gas and lodging, not even really food a lot of the time. And so it's like then you have your bandmates on top of that, and it's like, whoo! There's just not a lot to go around in the touring world, and it's been a huge talking point in the industry over the last couple of years, just how unsustainable touring has become, especially for artists that are in the lower and mid tiers and more like regional status rather than national acts. And even national acts, it's like as soon as you get to the point where you're scaling up to these different venues, well, now you have to scale up your production crew and your travel and your lodging for those people. And and so it's like there's just not a lot of money to be made on the road unless you're doing really well with your merch and stuff like that. And so that's actually kind of part of the reason I got into coffee too. Like I love it. I really got into it.
Yeah, coffee.
Yeah. I started roasting. Yeah, I started roasting beans on my own, and I was like, wouldn't it be cool if we sold this as merch? And then
why not?
Just grew arms and legs, and now I have a coffee company on the side from doing music. Yeah.
Gosh, there's so many things we could talk about. You know, one question: what's the worst moment you've had? Because I'm gonna tell you mine just for fun, which was when I was a teenager, which is a couple of centuries ago. I was in a band called Nemo, and we called it Nemo because we thought it would be funny if we had posters saying "No one in concert," and then we realized if no one was in concert, no one would show up. So we Latinized it to Nemo, right? Because Nemo means no one. And we were doing a church hall gig in a place called North Ferriby in England. And we thought, wouldn't it be fun to have a couple of smoke bombs go off at the very beginning of the show? And we'll open with deep purple smoke on the water. Anyway, so curtains open, smoke bombs goes off, 4 chords in. The place was so full of smoke, somebody called the fire brigade, and after one song, the thing was cancelled, and everybody had to quit.
That's great. Y'all were on fire.
That was embarrassing.
That is
happened to you?
Oh my gosh. Like on stage like that, or just in general?
Well, just on stage, any sort of funny situation.
But that's a whole different story. But as far as like on stage goes, there's a part in the show where we do a tandem drum and banjo drum solo because the banjo is a drum, so we're hitting the banjo and stuff. And so I come over to our drummer, and she's hitting the banjo head with sticks. And so I'm gonna grab a banjo so I can show you what I'm talking about. So the thing about banjos is the bridge is not fixed like it is on a guitar. Like you can move this and it'll wiggle around, and the only thing holding it here is the tension of the strings. And so Nat is beating the hell out of this thing, and she actually hit the bridge in such a way it just went and flipped straight down, and then all of the strings fell down with it, and so it just sounded like when you tried to strum it. And we're on stage at like a sold out show, like hundreds of people, and we were like, oh, oops. And so I literally was just like, all right, John's gonna give you a really rad bass solo. And so we ended up having this insane like free jazz punk moment, and I really wish that we had gotten a recording of it because it was sick. But our bassist is going ham, and then our sax player on a bari sax started just going into avant-garde squeaky territory as I grabbed a different banjo that was in an alternate tuning, got it back into the right tuning to finish out the song, and then we were able to finish the song, and it was crazy.
Yeah, that sounds like a sweaty moment.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny though, because I remember getting off stage after that set and thinking, thank God that I've played the amount of shows that I have at this point, because if that happened to me 5 years ago, I would have been like, what do I do? But
Yeah.
now I'm just kind of like, oh, yeah, that's crazy. How are we gonna get out of this one?
Yeah, well, I saw a video of you. I think it was at the weekend probably, and on YouTube, and you started a song, and I think was it your banjo? Maybe you were tuning it as you were singing, and I was thinking, my God, how the hell do you sing a song whilst tuning a banjo?
Yeah.
It's like mind-boggling.
Honestly, I joke, but I kind of feel like there's some truth to it, but I have ADHD, and I think in those scenarios, it's a bit of a blessing because I'm able to, it's so strange. I can feel it happen, but my brain just kind of splits into two or three different directions. And when I'm doing looping and stuff, I can feel that happen as well. But yeah, I don't know. I started getting into the habit of doing that. I always saw other people do it and I wondered how they could do it too, but I always admired that they could keep the show moving without
Yeah,
having to be like, pause, everybody, hang on a second. Ding, ding,
absolutely.
ding, ding, ding,
Yeah.
ding. You know? No one wants to sit through that, especially with a banjo. It's such an obnoxious instrument.
I don't know. I've never even lifted a banjo. Guitar is my thing, and
That's cool.
you play multiple instruments, I know. So where do you go from here?
From here, I have a little run of shows down here in Central Florida this weekend, and then I am off to the Midwest. I'm playing with Josh Joplin, who had a big song called Camera One back in the early 2000s. He's awesome, such a sweetheart. So I'm going to be opening the shows for him solo, and then I'm actually jumping behind the drum kit and playing drums with his band
Oh wow,
after I play my solo set. So I'm really excited to
yeah,
do double duty every night. I think it's going to be so fun.
that's
I
cool.
haven't really gotten to do the drums, um, with a like a proper gig before, so it's really
Th-
fun.
There's so much I'd love to talk to you about, but we're running out of time here, unfortunately. But I mean, so many things, even the magical side, because we haven't really pursued that as much as I hoped to. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it's really good to talk to you, and I wish you lots and lots of luck. And I'll certainly be banging the drum for you here in Europe. We'll see
thank
what
you
we
very
can do
much.
with my limited audience. I'm something of a. You talked about multiple minds. I'm something of that kind of. I don't know if I've got that, but I'm certainly somebody that's constantly creative, and I do all kinds of different things. None of them that well, probably.
Honestly, that's how I feel about playing a bunch of different instruments. It's like I can get a sound out of it, but I don't
Well,
really
but
know
you got
what's
the
going
voice. I
on.
mean, your voice is amazing. I mean, on that
Thank
Shawn
you.
Mullins thing when you let it rip, it's like my goodness me. That's sends shivers up your spine. It's like good lord. And that was it. I'm like, okay, what else has she done? Let's have a look. And yeah,
Thank
I'm,
you.
I'm glad I found you, and I'm very glad you agreed to come on my little show. I'm honoured
Oh,
to
of
have you.
course.
If people want to learn more about you, where would they go? What would they do?
Yes, you can find me at catridgeway.com, and it's cat with a C
Cool. Okay.
and Ridgeway with an E.